Welcome to Thought Arouser. We're going to be talking this week about succinctness. And I need to say at the beginning of this discussion, I regard succinctness as more of an art form than I do of a discipline that you can rigorously tackle. It's a little fluid to be a discipline, at least in my thinking. Succinctness verbally would be the opposite of verboseness, like terse in writing. You're clear, you're precise, you're to the point, and you don't have people rolling their eyes or checking out if you're in a meeting with them. And you're able to communicate clearly and effectively if you're succinct. This week when we talk, I want us to consider some of the reasons we over talk. Typically, you realize it, or someone realizes that they're over talking when they are already doing it, or they look back at a conversation and realize, I said too much. There are 5 reasons that I've discovered as to why people over talk. And one of the most common, the most prevalent, is that we think our listeners want every detail. If it's important to me, it must be important to you, right? And it really isn't. In the writing venue, we have a term called a customer or a reader-centric view. That's where we come to the other side of the table and we ask ourselves, what does this person need to know? And then we write to that way. In a verbal sense, the same kind of thing. What do they need to know? They don't need all of the details that I remember and that I recall. That's the number one reason that we overtalk. The second one is we're just not measuring our words. We get into a conversation and we just let it roll. Maybe we're comfortable, maybe we're not, but we talk and we talk and we don't measure what we're saying. So it's a lack of awareness that causes that. A third reason is we bring storytelling into objective parts of our conversations. I'm guilty of this a lot. I'll be talking about something and the data or the statistic or the number will remind me of where that came from, and without realizing, I go get that story and I drop it into, and I am over talking at that point. It's not pertinent to the conversation. It may be interesting, might even get a laugh, but it doesn't help the conversation. So we can sometimes over talk by bringing storytelling into objective conversations. The fourth reason is that we forget to listen. When we are listening to answer, or we're listening to counter, or we're listening to rebut, we use more words than necessary because we are over talking and somebody isn't able or doesn't have the time or the permission or the freedom to express their side of the conversation. Last reason is that sometimes we are anxious about what's going on. We're nervous in a conversation, and so we overcompensate with words. That happens frequently in police interrogation rooms. They're counting on that anxiousness, and they'll spill a detail that they didn't intend to let go of, and that helps them find who done it. A couple conversational tips that will help with succinctness, and we'll explore this a little bit when we talk this week. It's a good idea to enter a conversation with 1 or 2 good questions that will invite others to talk. Not yes or no questions, but just when you're going to be meeting people, maybe it's reception, maybe it's a get-together, maybe a dinner. If you have a question or 2 in mind, I would like to think of it as in my pocket, but I can use the same question with a few people at that event to get them to talk. That helps. Another aim that I have, and this is probably one of the most valuable parts of this discussion, when I enter into a conversation, any conversation, I want myself to have less than half of a 2-person conversation, less than a third if there are 3, less than a quarter if there are 4, which means 2-person conversation, if it's a 5-minute conversation, they should have 3 minutes worth of that 5, and I should have no more than 2. So it's imbalanced. They're saying a little bit more than I am. If it's a 15-minute conversation, they get 10, I get 5, and that's one of my goals. That's one of my objectives. I'm reaching for that. Ben Franklin had 13 virtues. You can look up what they were if you want to. One of them, the second one, was silence. But the definition, I think, would speak to this discussion. His definition was, speak not but what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. We don't want to talk just to talk. We want to have something to say. And when we've finished saying it, we want to be done. To be a man or a woman of few words is actually a compliment. And that's what we're going to discuss this week, how to move in that direction. I don't think we're going to see any miracles in this, but we'll see awareness and progress. The less you say, the wiser you seem. There's several proverbs to that effect. Abraham Lincoln had a couple. We learn more when we listen. That seems like an obvious, well, shoot, yes, but if I'm speaking, I'm not learning anything because I already know what I'm about to say. But if I'm listening, then I'm learning. Voltaire said, the secret to being tiresome is to tell everything. That's the opposite of being succinct. My dad used to say, it's harder to get in trouble for things you don't say. Proverbs 21:23. Go have a look at that one. He who guards his mouth and his tongue keeps his soul from trouble. I came across that on the 23rd of some month. I was reading through Proverbs that way, and that one stood out to me. My tongue was getting me in trouble, new school, new place, and that helped. I love the New Living Translation. It's kind of in your face. Watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you'll stay out of trouble. And I'll put another one, a graphic image you can use for your for a postcard or on your computer wallpaper. You never saw a fish on a wall with his mouth shut. And this video is, I think, it's time for me to be succinct and turn it off. We'll talk this week. See ya.